This episode is brought to you by Human Food. Today's going to be all about olive tapenades. I've got a real powerful craving for something smearable and salty and delicious. And I'm going to bake a soda bread, which is a sort of Irish type of bread using bicarbonate of soda rather than yeast, which is great because it's quick to make and you don't have to let it rise and do lots of kneading and stuff. I'm going to do black olive tapenade and then a green olive and garlic tapenade because I think that's going to be yummy. And what I'd like to do is make a garlic confit. Now confit is similar principle to deep frying, so you're submerging something in oil, but the oil is it's warm rather than hot, so the heat is much less aggressive. And it's a very slow and gentle process. So the first stage is to peel garlic. I've got about half a head of garlic here. That's what I've pulled out of the veg drawer. You can do as many or as few as you like. I might not use all of these. It depends on the intensity of the flavour once I get going. So cut through, but don't go quite all the way to the other side. You want to leave a bit attached. And then it makes it easier to pull that bit back. A bit like a ring pull on a can of soft drink, I suppose. And just work your way around, pinch the bottom. It should come out nice and cleanly. I really would advise using the smallest saucepan that you can find. I might have to invest in another one. Because the garlic needs to be completely submerged in the oil, I'm going to have to use a fair bit of olive oil. And you do, again, want to use extra virgin olive oil if you can, just it's going to give the best flavour. You want a fairly gentle heat for this, so I've got mine at 5, it goes up to 9. I'm going to keep an eye on it. And it needs about 40 minutes, I think. Never done it before and had a quick Google, and this seems to be the way to do it. So yeah, just keep an eye on it. As the oil starts heating up, you're going to see little bubbles coming out of it. Apparently the ideal temperature for this is about between 200 and 210 Fahrenheit. I'm at 176 now after a couple of minutes of heating. So I'll check it again in a few more minutes and then I might have to adjust the temperature slightly on the hob. We'll see. The garlic's been on for about 25 minutes now. I'll give you a little close-up of those. You can see they look like they're going translucent almost. Fish one out for you. So it's time to get cracking with the soda bread. Found a recipe online, I'll post the link to the original, and I've kind of adapted it a little bit. And we need to make a sort of vegan buttermilk. So I've got 300 mils of soy milk, and I'm going to pour in a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. And this is going to make it kind of coagulate. And I assume the vinegar in here, or the vinegar in the milk, is going to react with the bicarbonate of soda, giving it that lift and rise that I'm after. I'm using apple cider vinegar, but you can use white wine vinegar, rice wine vinegar, rice vinegar. Just avoid the dark malt vinegar or balsamic, anything like that, because that's just going to be too powerful in taste. So pour that in, and you'll see it starts to coagulate. And really what happens is that it starts to curdle. And this is how you make tofu. So you start with soy milk, add an acid, and you get these clots. So if you've ever put soy milk in a coffee and it splits, you've kind of made tofu. You can see already it's getting much thicker. Tuck that to the side and I'll do the dry ingredients. I'm going to use 250 grams of whole wheat flour. Sift that through. I'm sieving it just to make sure there's no great big clumps, but then obviously I'm going to be left with all the wheat germ, so I'm going to put that back in. 100 grams of plain flour. And you can very much fiddle around, use different flours, different ratios, just experiment, see what you come up with. That's very much what I'm planning on doing. I'm also going to put a bit of flour on a baking sheet, so that's what I'll put the bread on. I'm doing a teaspoon of bicarbonate of soda. And you want bicarb or baking soda as it's also called. Do not use baking powder, it's not going to work. It's not strong enough because that's got other bits and pieces in there, so you do want bicarb. Preheating the oven at this stage, 220 degrees C. I'll do all of the conversions in the edit for you. And then a teaspoon of salt, sieve those together as well. Got 50 grams of oats. I use the Flavorhans jumbo oats because I really like the texture. Quite meaty, nice to bite on. Use any kind you like. I've got 50 grams of walnut hearts here. I toasted them in the air fryer for about 8 to 10 minutes at 180 degrees C. I had mine in the freezer, which is why they probably took a little bit longer than it might if they'd just been in the cupboard. And once they're toasted, they do become very brittle. So it should be fairly easy to flick them all over the counter. It should be very easy just to sort of press on them and break them down like that. I've decided I want some caraway seeds in there as well. I've got a lovely aromatic flavour on the same sort of spectrum as cumin and fennel, but not quite. They sometimes put it in rye bread, so if you've had rye with little seeds in it, chances are it's caraway. I love the flavour. Feel free to skip it if you don't want that at all. I'm going to go with a tablespoon of caraway seeds. Give this a good mixing through. Just make sure there's no big streaks of any one particular thing. And I'm pushing a little well in the middle. Reservoir for the milk. I'm going to check the garlic at this point. It's had 40 minutes in there, so we'll see how tender it is when I poke it. Perfect. Very soft. Look at that. That's exactly the texture I'm after. I forgot to tell you, with the garlic, I ended up putting it right down on 1, so on the lowest setting the hob would go on. I would recommend doing that rather than starting it high and then dropping it, unless you've got a probe or some sort of thermometer, because if it's too high, by the time you've realised it, you're going to burn the garlic. So better to just go at 1 or whatever the lowest is, yours goes, and then just wait. You know, plan to give it an hour if necessary, just because otherwise it's going to go black and then it'll be acrid and you just can't eat it really. Very unpleasant is burnt garlic. So I'll just leave that to do, you know, carry on being delicious while I crack on with the bread. So here is the soy milk and vinegar mixture. And you can see how thick that is. I'm going to add the milk a little bit at a time, just so it doesn't get too wet or anything. Yeah, so pour in maybe 1/3 to get started. And work it in with a fork. I mean, do it with your hands if you like. I just don't want to get too sticky at this stage. Different flours have got different absorption rates, so it is, and that can even vary between 4 different bags of plain flour. It can radically differ. So, you know, you just keep tweaking it until we get to a nice sticky dough. Going with my hands now. It's meant to be a very sticky dough apparently, so I think we're okay. Putting some flour on my hands just to make it easier to shape the loaf. Get into kind of a round, if you can, to a little round shape. And then onto the baking tray. Kind of pat it down a little bit. I'm going to cut a really deep cross into this, just so the centre cooks. And you want to go almost to the bottom. Then I'm going to sprinkle on some oats. These are kind of rolled oats, they're a bit smaller in texture. And really I'm only doing about a teaspoon or so. And then put this into the oven. The bread will be in the oven for about 30 minutes, which will hopefully give me enough time to make the tapenades. I've been sent some of these, and these are the world's most nutritionally dense organic food. And they happen to look like astronaut food, if you ask me. Inside the little boxes, you get these bars. I've got 2 of each bar here. So these bars are plant-based, which is why I can enjoy them, and absolutely packed full of nutrients. Each bar has its nutritional information on there. So this, for example, has got 100% of your recommended intake of vitamin B12, great for vegans, 60% of your vitamin C, 50% of your vitamin D, B1, B2, B3, B5 and B6, 50% of your magnesium, and 950 milligrams of omega-3. The bars have a sweetness to them, but they're not sugary in any way. So a lot of the kind of cereal bars, nutrition bars, they just can be a bit sickly and claggy, whereas these are, because they're just made out of fruit and nuts and seeds. This has got goji berries, hemp seeds, apple juice concentrate, dried banana, pea protein, sunflower seeds. So really you're just getting whole foods rather than lots of fillers and sticky, sugary type things.
Head over to humanfood.bio and use promo code Auntie Rachel to get 20% off your first order.
I'm going to do the green olive tapenade first. This is a 290 gram jar. Drained weight is 130 grams. I bought pitted green olives, so that's a much quicker job. So obviously if you can only get ones with pits in them, take them out. And then just dump those in the food processor. Put them in with a bit of black pepper. I'm going to hold off on the salt because the olives were in brine, which is salt water. So they probably are quite salty already, but I'm going to try that at the end. So I'll give those a bit of a blitz at this stage. My food processor's died. I'm going to do it with a hand blender because that's going to be annoying in the jug blender. So we'll try it, see what happens. So I'm going to try one of these bits of garlic, see how intense the flavour is. That's delicious. Very mellow, sweet, very gentle flavour. So I'm going to put all of those in. I'm also adding 3 teaspoons of the oil. Give this another whiz. I want a bit of thyme in there, fresh thyme. Fresh is better. I suppose you could use dried at a pinch, but it's just going to have a slightly bittier texture. Picking the leaves off and throwing away the bigger stands. Probably a tablespoon of leaves there, so I'm just going to chop that down a little bit. Add those into the bowl. I've got about a tablespoon of flaked almonds here, so I'm kind of taking it into a pesto sort of vibe. So I'm just going to chop those down a bit. I'm putting the almonds in just because I think it would be really nice to have little pops of sweetness in there with the saltiness from the olives, but feel free to leave that out if you're not a big fan, or if you've got nut allergies or use any other kind of nut you like. Give that a good stir through. Give this a try. That's gorgeous. I've got some vegan Parmesan style cheese that I made. So I might put a sprinkle of that on. See if that brings anything to the party. It does. 2 teaspoons. Packing it into a sterilised jar. I mean, I don't think it's going to last long enough for sterilising to have any impact, but you know, that's one down. And it's been half an hour, so I'm going to get the bread out. Oh, this looks lush. I'm going to just brush this excess flour off. I'm going to put that on a cooling rack and just let it cool down for a bit. Have a tidy round. Switch out my memory card because that stopped a while ago, and then we'll crack on with the black olive. Onto the black olive tapenade. Unfortunately, the only olives they had pits in them, so I need to take the pits out, which is going to be a bit of a labour, but sometimes you have to earn these things. I found the best way of doing olives is just to gently run your knife through it, as long as they're the kind of wrinkly sort. So just work your knife through, move it around. You're not putting tons of pressure on the blade, just enough to guide it down. You can drag it over as well, that's quite effective. And then it's just a case of going through and pulling out the pits. I'm using a 250 gram jar of olives, but none of the measurements need to be exact. You know, it's not such a scientific one. So whatever you've got, it's fine. You just might need to adjust the flavours a little bit. Once all of the olives are pitted, add a little bit of black pepper. And again, I'm holding off on the salt because these are quite salty already. And then I'm going to crunch in some dried sage. I thought I had bay and I don't, otherwise I would have used bay leaves instead. And this one's going to be a fairly plain one, relatively speaking. I'll probably only do those 2 added ingredients. So give that a good mushing up. Give that a try at this stage. Oh, Renegade Pit, get in there. I've added a touch more black pepper. The seasoning is going to come down to your own personal preference, so put a bit in, try it, and then put a bit more in. Just don't start chucking loads in to start off with, because you can't take it back out. And I'll add a couple of teaspoons of the garlic oil, blitz it up again. And the consistency needs to be quite compact so it holds its shape. So I think that's probably about right. Give it another try. It's salty, but there's almost like how to describe that flavour? Almost buttery in a way. There's a real richness to the flavour and a real nice depth to it as well. So pack this into another jar. So tapenades are done. So now I'm just going to let the bread cool down a little bit more while I tidy around, and I'll see you back for the eating. It's time to do some eating, and I'm very excited about it. I've pulled out a block of vegan cheese to have with it, and this is the one I made with the mashed potato powder, like the instant mash, and fenugreek seeds. I think that'll go quite nicely with it. Slice off a bit of the bread. Let's get this right. It's got quite a dense structure. It's not going to be the pillowy, light type of bread. But that looks really, really tasty. I'll do a little bit of the tapenade on its own, the green olive one. Dive in. That's so good. The walnuts and caraway in the bread just give lots of little bursts of flavour. So that, to be fair, would be great with just butter on top of it. But when you put the tapenade on top, oh, next level. It's delicious. So much complexity of flavour despite it being bread. Well, that's going to be gone in a day. Some of the black olive, the flavours in there are amazing. It's really intense, but gorgeous. A really rich, full-bodied flavour. I'm planning on making a mushroom pate, and I think I might put some of that olive tapenade in just to really deepen the flavour. I think that's going to work really well, and it's going to go really nicely with that bread. That's so good. If you stick to buying pitted olives, there's no reason why you couldn't have this done start to finish in an hour, I reckon, including the bread and everything. So it is quite a quick little meal. By my standards, quick anyway. If you wanted to have some of the bread freshly made for after work, what you could do is mix the dry ingredients together, leave it, and then as soon as you get home, preheat the oven, do your soy milk, then mix everything together, and be ready to go in 40 minutes, 35-40 minutes. So it is a nice quick supper for you. For more recipes that are ideal when you've got that snack attack, hit subscribe, tap the bell icon, and check out some of these.